Welcome back to the Keeping It Real Estate with Chris Bober podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bober, and together my wife Jennifer and I form Team Bober here at Nebraska Realty, and we're here to help you make your move. Now, our mission is to educate and empower our clients to make great real estate decisions. So in this podcast and all the information and social media and videos that we put out there, what we want to do is we want to give you information. We want to bring you up to date on what's going on in the market and the best practices to get you guys the best results. So in that spirit today, I have my good buddy, my insurance agent, Brandon Brockmann of Brockmann Insurance. Now, Brandon does all kinds of insurance, property and casualty, homeowners. He does business, commercial. He does ag. He does crop insurance, all kinds of different stuff today. And we're going to talk with Brandon about some of this, how insurance applies to you as a homeowner out there or a potential homeowner. So Brandon, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate you just sharing your knowledge, right? And we're trying to empower you guys and educate you to make decisions. And such a wealth of knowledge Brandon is. Okay, Brockmann Insurance. Tell me where you came from, kind of where you grew up and stuff, and then how'd you get to Brockmann Insurance? You're an independent insurance agency, but tell us your story.
Yeah. No, thanks, Chris, for having me. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. I'm out of West Point, Nebraska, actually. So I grew up here, went to high school at West Point, Nebraska. I did go to college at Wayne State, so right up the street here, up in northeast Nebraska. And then I graduated, went down to Kansas City. And that's where I got into insurance. And I was in there for 16 years. And then I actually kind of took a little break. We had some changes, and I actually started, it was the Midwest Black Sox, Kansas City Fieldhouse. So I got into a college prep baseball program for about 5 years. And then we kind of moved that in a different direction. And then I'm thinking, well, I need to get doing something again. So then I got back into insurance, started my agency about 5-6 years ago, and moved back to Omaha, probably around that period of time. And then moved back to West Point, Nebraska during the pandemic in 2020. And here I am today, back in Omaha.
Nice. Yeah, so you're around this area. Of course, insurance agents can do insurance in a lot of different places.
Yep, absolutely.
So you are an independent agency.
Yes.
So I know there's a lot of other agencies out there that are captive insurance agents, like State Farm and American Family and stuff like that. So tell me, what's the difference between those? And then what are some of the pros and cons versus working with an independent agent versus a captive agent?
No, that's a great question. And I guess with being an independent, you have options. I mean, with me, I have about 8 different personal lines policies to look at, whether it be your homeowners, your auto, and also in commercial lines, I actually have more than that. But if you are a captive agent, essentially they just have the one option. And if you have a rate increase, which we're all kind of experiencing through this inflationary period, they don't have another option. Now with me, with my office, we have those rate increases. We have different options. So we don't have to pull away from coverage. We don't have to pull away from benefits. We mark you out to multiple different carriers that are going to be your fit within your demographic to get all of your insurance needs taken care of.
And the companies that you work with, they're kind of your choosing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because some of them have things that they do really well, some maybe not as much, and you can guide people in that. But I really like the fact that you have options. I think people, the thing that they want most in anything is they want choice.
Yeah.
They want to be able to choose, and you can help educate them on if you go through Allstate versus Progressive and companies like that. But all the companies that you work with, you've kind of vetted them and you've chosen to work with them, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the most important thing too, because for me, we want to be able to get our insurance. We want it to be affordable. But when there's a claim, we want that claim to be paid. Because the last thing I would want as an individual, I want for my customers, is to have that type of damage to my home, whether it be a roof, whether it be a siding, whether it be maybe some water damage, that damages my house and I don't get it replaced properly, so that maybe I have a house that I don't want to live in anymore. I want that coverage to be in place so that when that claim is made, that claim can be paid, the customer, the individual can rebuild back to where they once were, continue to live in that house and be happy as they were before.
Yeah, and it's funny that I heard this saying one time, and it just really hit me. Insurance is something that you can never get when you need it.
Yeah.
Right? So when you need to get covered on something, you can't go back and say, okay, now I need coverage.
Right, absolutely.
It's something you got to purchase ahead of time. It's like kind of a risk management thing. So it's a peace of mind. It's a kind of a security blanket that you have.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you just from my personal experience, I had a fender bender recently, and we were having a problem with the insurance agency and the insurance company, and the auto people. We're trying to get estimates and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I call Brandon, and within like 20 minutes, all of a sudden, the body shop heard back
There we
from
go,
the
right?
insurance agent right there. So I mean, that's why you have an
Yeah,
insurance agent.
absolutely,
If
yeah.
not, you just buy it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like buying a home. Right?
Yeah.
Anyone out there can go and buy their own home, but do you really want to do that yourself? Something you do maybe a couple times in your life, or do you want someone that's a professional at it?
Professional.
And that's kind of what Brandon provides.
Somebody that picks up the phones, return your texts, and is involved. And I know you're really good at that too. I know me at my office, we try to, for me, that's something I say we got to be very, very good at this because customer service is important, and I know you realize that as well.
That's kind of what we get paid to do, right?
Absolutely.
Like I tell people, I said, I'm not a salesperson, right? I'm not selling your house.
Yeah,
you're selling
yeah.
your house. I'm the facilitator, right? I'm here to take you through the process, and you're writing the same thing.
Right.
Okay, so let's kind of go hover over the homeowners insurance,
Okay, let's
right?
do it.
Because we deal with people buying and selling houses, and of course, every time that you go and purchase a house, you have to have proof of insurance. You have to pay so much in advance and stuff like that. But tell me some of the things that people should be looking for, when they're purchasing a house and you have to go and get a homeowner's policy. Tell me about a process you recommend as far as knowing what kind of coverage to have, what is covered, what isn't covered, how much coverage to get. How do you take people through getting homeowners insurance?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, with your homeowner's insurance, obviously you grab your information, the home address, and the initial thing we run is the reconstruction costs. And that would be, all carriers are different how they have it set up and the program that they use. A lot of it, they call it a 360 because they're taking a full circle of your whole property and what that amount would be to get rebuilt to be back to where it was. Essentially, they look at it as a total loss where the, hurricane. Tornado would be a good example where you have a total loss. And we want to be able to get that house rebuilt to where it was. So that's the important thing, is to make sure that your coverage level is where it should be. And the other thing is as well is to make sure you have the little things in the coverage that can get paid, like your equipment breakdown. You might want to have water backup, your service line coverage. Because your equipment breakdown, it doesn't happen too often, but if lightning hits your house, all your appliances get destroyed. They short. Do you have enough money to replace all those? It's kind of tough. Or the one that people run into, which I know you'll get in this mail, it's the service line coverage. It's that point for the sewer system from your house through your yard, which goes to the usually to the main line to the street.
Yep.
And the thing is, well, is that covered? Is it not? It's always kind of a gray area, and that's left out of a lot of policies. But that's something I like to go over with my customers because if it happens, it could be a $5,000 out of your pocket, and it's a gray area, and it's with you and the city.
Yep.
And you know what? Usually the city ends up winning.
They got a lot more money to hold out, right?
Meanwhile,
you have the problem that's causing more damage.
Right, absolutely.
And
yes.
eventually it's got to get fixed.
Yes.
Well, there are several things that come up that we always recommend just asking about. Like flood insurance is one of them. Yep. Another one is if you're I know you have insurance on your house, but if your main line backs up in your house,
right,
a lot of times just a standard policy doesn't cover that. So what are some of the things like that people should look for to maybe add on to their policy? And another one would be like maybe an insurance or a rider for your personal property.
Right.
But tell me a couple of things you recommend just from your experience in the business and what hey, I got homeowners insurance. Great. It covers me if I got a fire or tornado. Right. But more than likely, it's going to be something smaller that happens.
Right.
Tell us some things to look for when you go and get a policy.
Yeah. No, that's a great question too. And one of the other things, if you're looking out for insurance, you get everything kind of finalized, you're going over with your agent, ask them what exposures that are still out there that they should be covered for. And, a couple things would be like that equipment breakdown that I talked about. That's sometimes
especially if you work from home, right?
If you work from home, absolutely. That service line coverage is a big one. And the other one is liability. I mean, that's one because that would be, we live in a world where people like to sue each other for one reason or another, and negligence is big, and you want that liability to be covered. That's kind of with your umbrella policy as well.
Yeah, I know we have like $1 million umbrella policy,
absolutely.
And that covers anything after like your homeowners. But if your homeowner's insurance, if someone slips and falls,
right,
your homeowner's insurance probably isn't covering that.
No, it probably
or not very
isn't.
much.
That's the liability side of it.
Yep.
And that's when you want to make sure there's enough in there, and it's just a minimal amount. Usually your standard probably in the last 3 years had 300,000. I usually recommend about 500,000 because it's maybe only an additional $10 to $15.
And it's not very much.
It's like $1 or $2 a month,
Yeah.
and you're able to get an extra 200,000 of coverage.
Yeah, and those for the peace of mind you get from those.
Absolutely.
It's just huge.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so let's just say you purchase your house, you have a house. What's some best practices for homeowners that are in their current home to maybe review their policy every year? Now, I know a problem we might have going on right now is that homeowner prices are going up some. The values have gone up. So you really probably want to review with your agent what your valuation is. Because if your property went up 20% like it has the last couple of years, maybe not this year, but the last couple of years, you might not necessarily be covered, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the number one thing, Chris, that I'm running into is people are underinsured, which is probably the first time in 10 years that I've ran into it. But like what you said, with the price of homes, the price of reconstruction, just the labor costs, lumber costs, all that gets involved in there, you want to make sure that your home is covered at the correct level. And that's why that 360 is so important, but it's also on the claim side as well. Because if you're underinsured, you have that claim. If you're underinsured by 10%, the money you're going to get to replace your home is going to be 10%, and it's going to come from you, from out of your pocket. And that's why it's important to have that proper insurance in there as far as the coverage level.
It's also important to have an insurance agent that's on top of that too.
Absolutely.
Because as Brandon, as our insurance agent, when our policy's up for renewal every year, we get a phone call, we get explanations. He gives us our options. He said, "Listen, I ran the numbers, and if you go to this company, you might be covered for a little bit better price." So that's probably one of the best practices for you as an insurance agent. And if you're listening to this or watching this, does your insurance agent do that?
That's a good question.
Do they call you annually and say, "Oh, by the way, your policy is set to expire. We have to renew it. I'm going to tell you what's changing," right? That's probably something you do every year, right?
Yeah, we do every year. And when you look at the insurance, typically you get a lot of discounts up front. And a lot of those discounts usually over the course of 4 years roll off. So, you should definitely be looking at it every year. At least call them up with any updates, any changes, maybe you remodeled. You just want to make sure things are where they are and why not. And your insurance agent should be reaching out to you, which we do at our office. We have a system in place to do that, to connect with everybody once a year and say, hey, how are things going? The other thing is, too, if you're not getting that type of attention, every 4 years, probably 3 to 4, you should definitely look at it because kind of like I said, those discounts roll off. And if we're going to look at a period now and probably the next 2 years where there's going to be a lot of changes as far as the inflation and different things when it has to do with monetary situations, being able to go out and bring those discounts back on that policy and keeping it low, in my opinion, is very, very important.
Nice. And another thing that's come up recently, I've had some people I know that have had like a total loss, like a fire at their house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it happens.
And one of the tips I heard is to take your phone, and we all have video.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
To just walk to your house and video everything.
Yes.
Because they said the hardest thing that they're doing is trying to remember all their personal property,
Yeah.
right? Like a person I know had it. They said they lost their jeans, right?
Right.
But if you had spent $100 on a pair of quality jeans,
right,
and you put in 4 pairs of jeans, they're going to say, okay, well, jeans cost $20 from Levi's or whatever.
Right.
And I wear Levi's, so let's not talk about that. But you want to make sure you're properly covered and be able to do that. I've known a couple people who've had total losses, and the hardest thing was remembering all their stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that's a great problem to have, that you have stuff, which is wonderful. But yeah, absolutely, anything of value to you, take pictures of it, take videos of it, do whatever you can to make sure that if there is that claim situation, that you're able to get reimbursed to where you want to go. It's very, very important.
Especially things that you can like firearms and jewelry and stuff like that. You should keep a list and put it somewhere where it's not going to get lost in the fire, right?
Yeah, and you can actually schedule those in the insurance policy, and that's a great thing. Even stuff within your garage. Maybe you've got a mower for some reason that has a lot of value to you, and it gets caught in the fire, you want to know the name, we'll schedule it and get it done. I know some people do that with their boats as well. Some of them where they might not drive them too much anymore and they chose to take off their boat coverage, we'll schedule it on the homeowners and go from there. Because if something would happen, kind of like what you said, a fire, it's tough to kind of take a look at that stuff and go, yeah, I remember what this was.
Well, especially when you spend a lot of money on like mowers and like
Yeah.
your smoker. You know,
Right.
some of these
Oh,
smokers
yeah.
cost
Oh,
a couple $1,000s. You just don't want to get a Weber back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's one thing. Yeah, absolutely. A smoker, obviously you probably have a picture for maybe when you're using it.
When you put it on Facebook or Instagram, you have the picture of that. Go
Schedule
find it, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Nice. Okay, so let's just look at big picture now, right?
Okay.
And I know one of the things that's affecting every market out there is inflation.
Yes.
How is that affecting the insurance market?
Well, it's actually affecting it similar to everything else where the rates are going up. And the rates are driven kind of like we talked about. You look at your home prices, which are all driven by your lumber and your labor costs and just the cost to actually bring your product from point A to point B. I mean, right there, everything's moved on gas. So even that gas price, it's eventually going to get caught up. And that's why it's so very important.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like when people get assessed for their real estate taxes.
Right.
They're calling me and say, "Oh my gosh, this went up." I said, "Well, yeah, but if you sell your house, you're going to get that money."
Yeah.
Right? So we're not surprised when the value of things goes up. You have to pay a little bit more in insurance or a little bit more in taxes because it's usually on a percentage of that. Right. So don't be surprised. Everything's gone up, so insurance is going to go up too.
And Chris, when you look at that inflationary, I think the way if you want to try to, do the best you can to kind of control that on your end, it would be marketing out that policy, kind of like we talked about. And whether it be a year from now or 4 years from now, or, I've had some people, I talked to some the other day, they haven't marketed their insurance for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And we saved about 35%.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they kept going with the same policy, you keep making the same payment, and you don't take advantage of those different discounts. And sometimes these old policies are expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing where you have an old policy that just hasn't been updated. And I know I've changed a lot in the last 30 years, Chris.
Yeah.
So I would think that some insurance and the different way we do things and build things would be the same. So absolutely, that would be the one thing I recommend is to, take it on yourself to market out that insurance.
Yeah, that's another great thing about being an independent agent.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
That you can do that. It's a great advantage. Okay, so before we kind of wrap up here, we talked primarily about homeowners insurance, and then we've of course rolled in like the car insurance, stuff like that. Tell me about some other insurance products. I know you do. I know a big one that we have with you is our business insurance, commercial insurance, but umbrella policies. I know you also do crop insurance. So tell us, the folks out there that are watching and listening, tell them a little bit about the other insurance opportunities they might have with someone like you.
Yep. No, thanks, Chris. Yeah, we are a full service insurance agency. We do everything from commercial lines, so any type of property, business owner's policy, if it's specific operations, any type of rental policies, we take that on. Personal lines from your home, from your auto to boats. We cover it all. I mean, and the crop insurance and farm insurance is a big market here in Nebraska, and we have many, many good options for that. So that's one thing about here, and especially with the crop insurance and the farm, it's just a really good, solid market to be involved in.
And it gets interesting because I know that I got an insurance policy with you for my Bober Academy.
Yeah.
Right? So I help, my other company, I helped train offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And we had to get a little creative because we were at a facility, but you're dealing with kids.
You're dealing with
kids.
So
I was amazed at the things that were in that policy. Not all of them I want to talk about, but you can pretty much insure anything.
Absolutely.
If you can write anything as long as you can understand the risk and the liability and stuff like that. So that's great stuff. So again, Brandon Brockmann with Brockmann Insurance, and all the information to find Brandon, we are going to include that wherever you're watching this video or listening to this podcast. A great partnership. I know we network together, we do business together, we're also personal friends, but he can insure pretty much anything you got out there. Of course, your homeowners insurance is what the big thing we're focusing on as realtors.
Definitely.
The largest investment you have, you want to make sure it's covered enough, and then your cars and your businesses and umbrella, crop insurance if you need something like that. So, Brandon, thank you so much for coming in. This has got so much information in here. I just feel like we just hit the tip of the iceberg.
It was fun.
Right? Yeah,
it was fun.
But it's just a start. So if you do need have some questions about insurance, I mean, I'm going to include Brandon's information wherever you're finding this, his website, his email, his phone number and stuff like that. So you can ask, right? And you're a great referral source for us for people who are buying a house. Hey, listen, you want to go and be able to find the
Yep,
best
you guys
insurance.
are one of the best.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Well, to be one of the best, you have to partner with the best. So that hopefully puts you in that category too.
Thank you.
Once again, Chris Bober with the Keeping It Real Estate with Chris Bober podcast. Of course, we're with Team Bober Nebraska Realty. Just as a reminder, if you're listening to this on a podcast, just click the little subscribe button down there. That'll give you notifications whenever we drop a new episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the red subscribe button and even the little bell to get notifications. And whichever media device you're listening to or seeing this on, if you could, like it, comment, retweet, whatever it is out there. We're going to put this on all of our social media, on all of our marketing out there, because our mission is to educate and empower you as our clients to make great real estate decisions. And when you're ready to make a decision about real estate, be sure to give Chris and Jen at Team Bober Nebraska Realty a call. So, Brandon, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks
Appreciate
for coming
it.
in.
Thanks
We
for
will
inviting me.
definitely put your
Appreciate
stuff
it.
out there. And again, keep tuning in to the Keeping It Real Estate with Chris Bober podcast, where you're going to get tons of information about the market, about what it takes to buy and sell real estate, and then you're going to call us and we're going to help you do it. So
That'd be great.
thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.